now.
Hello, this is the report from the Providers Forum, which met on the 11th of December 2015. We had quite a packed agenda, starting with an update on the domiciliary care provision provided by Goddard. One of the new 4 providers actually withdrew shortly after taking on the contract, meaning that VCSE, Bristol City Council, had no cover for 2 out of the 11 zones they'd commissioned, which affected about 45 service users and 29 members of staff. Bristol City Council made immediate provision for other providers to cover the 2 zones, meaning that all service users received a service and temporarily all 29 staff were transferred over to other providers, although since then many of them have actually left and found new employment. Bristol City Council are actively planning to make a decision about re-tendering for the 2 zones affected very shortly, and news of that will be forthcoming. And the next domiciliary care providers meeting is scheduled for late February 2016. The second item we looked at was the extra care housing. Sadly, the main leads for that area weren't present to make a report, but Joe Cap from Bristol CCG did highlight a sponsored pilot to improve health and wellbeing from a public health perspective. Evaluation of that pilot is ongoing now in order to plan the next steps and learn the lessons about what worked. Bristol City Council and the CCG are both very keen to hear from existing providers about the things they're doing which really showcase innovation, good practice and examples of success, especially in relation to reducing hospital admissions. And Better Care Bristol will be very keen to hear of any examples of that which providers can give them. The report on the Learning Disability Provider subgroup, that had met 2 weeks prior to this meeting. Providers had been expressing concerns about the recommissioning and in particular who to talk to and whether they were talking to the right people and if messages were being passed on. And the providers actually asked for Bristol City Council to provide an organisational structure plan so that they can understand better who's doing what. There's also some confusion about meetings, who should be attending which meeting, and actually some practical issues about when they arrive at the meeting, whether or not they can get into the buildings. So all of those things will be taken back by Bristol City Council. A safeguarding issue was raised about the use of benefits by appointees. Although providers don't control this, it could actually affect their CCG rating, and that's an issue that providers have raised. And recruitment of staff was again an issue causing grave concern. Some services are now having to refuse referrals due to staff shortages, and the monopoly that agencies have is a big issue in terms of cost to providers. The next report was about the Care Home Providers Forum. The imminent tender process will unify Bristol City Council and the CCG processes, will make arrangements more structured and transparent, and will set out core operating and governance standards. This process will be completed by the end of February 2016, and some providers have expressed concern about overlap with the recommissioning of the Community Support Service. Bristol City Council are launching a new care home tender website. Information about that will be coming soon, and they will also be writing to confirm registration on pro-actors. The mental health subgroup, there's real concern that this hasn't been meeting and maybe the momentum has been lost. A representative from Second Step said that they may be able to support to get that group going again. We had a report on health from Jo Cap at Bristol CCG. She described in detail that the acute trusts are under pressure and anything that providers can do is very welcome. There are fewer beds, which means that anything providers can give for people particularly requiring dementia nursing, that's very critical at the moment. And the CCG are looking at the number of needless admissions, which has been defined as people who go on to die within 2 days of admission, and some work is being done on that. Aisha Dar from the CQC reported back there have been some technical issues with the system for provider information returns, which means they're not following those up at the moment for people that haven't submitted, but when the issue is resolved they will return to doing that. There was also a discussion about the difference between a good and outstanding rating, and Aisha described that the inspector's reports are discussed at a panel and assessed looking at specified characteristics, and so to some extent the panel has a bit of a moderating function to make sure that the correct rating is provided. Requires improvement is the most common rating, which the CQC were quite surprised about, and they think that this is, rather than this being a challenge to the industry to raise standards, they see this as being more a facet of their inspections becoming more thorough and of a better quality standard themselves. Following on from this, we had Catherine Martin talking about the Community Support Services consultation. Bristol City Council have created 3 versions of the strategy and the survey. There's a standard, a plain English and an easy read strategy and survey, which is about trying to increase the accessibility across the whole of the community to be involved. They've completed 14 events and have 2 to go. All service users have been sent a letter, and the providers have also been publicising the consultation. Bristol City Council are trying very hard to increase the number of service users who are responding. 20 providers are currently attending the Community Support Service Providers Forum, and there's also a co-design group which is meeting to test that the ideas in the strategy are practical and achievable. Common themes coming out from the consultation so far is the critical role of carers and responding to what they're saying, anxiety about change, and for parents in particular, concerns about a future when they aren't around. The consultation closes on the 7th of January and will be followed by a "you said we did" type report. A paper will go to the Health and Wellbeing Board in mid-February, which will be an overview of what's happened so far, and the Health and Wellbeing Board will decide on next steps, with a view to commissioning in late spring. There was a discussion about winter plans and in particular about all of the pressures that we've talked about in the health service and such like. One of the things that came up was that providers are very loath to give staff leave over the Christmas period, and in fact many don't give leave, but agency staff of course can choose not to work over the Christmas period, and that in itself is causing providers considerable problems in terms of just having enough cover. There was also a reminder from Bristol City Council to ensure that everyone in provider services is aware of the business continuity arrangements, or at least if they're not aware of those, who to contact to find out should something happen like staff sickness or snowfall or any such thing. In any other business, we talked about a number of things, but the most pressing is that Sheila Jolly, who has been co-chairing this group, is moving to a new post in Swindon, so we'll be looking for a new representative of a provider to co-chair this group.